penyayang. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Pekalongan menjalankan amanat-Mu ya Rabbi. Mudahkanlah ikhtiar ini. Puji syukur pada Ilahi, ikhlas bakti ini tulus untuk negeri. Limpahkan rahmat-Mu di setiap langkah ini untuk melaksanakan tugas suci mulia. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Pekalongan, takwa pada Ilahi, cinta Ibu Pertiwi, ilmu Kau amalkan, amal Kau beri untuk Indonesia tercinta. Harumlah namamu, semerbak di negeriku, IAIN Pekalongan.
شكرا كثير. أيها المستمعون الكرام، نخطو إلى البرنامج الثالث، يعني قراءة القرآن الكريم، التي سيقوم بقراءتها أخينا الكريم رحمة كمال الماجستير، فليتفضل عليه مشكورا.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi ja'alni muqimas shalah. Rabbi ja'alni muqimas salati wa min dhurriyyati rabbana wa taqabbal du'a. Rabbana ighfir li wa liwalidayya walil mu'minina yawma yaqumul hisab. Rabbana ighfir li wa liwalidayya walil mu'minina yawma yaqumul hisab. Rabbana ighfir li wa liwalidayya walil mu'minina yawma yaqumul hisab. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ma'syaral jinni wal insi in istata'tum an tanfudhu istata'tum an tanfudhu min aqtaris samawati wal ardi fanfudhu. Tanfuduna illa bisultan. فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان. Sadaqallahul azim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sadaqallahul aliyyul azim wa sadaqa rasuluhun nabiyil karim wa nahnu ala dzalika minasyahidin wasyakirin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wa bihadhil qiraah asa ayyaj'alallahu baramijana hadzal yaum tasiru sayran hasanan wa yubariku fi amin ya rabbal alamin.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is welcoming remarks. We would like to invite the Director of Postgraduate Program of IAIN Pekalongan, Dr. Makrum, as the chairman of this conference to his opening speech. Bapak Director, the floor is yours.
Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. The Honorable Rector of the Islamic Institute of Pekalongan, Indonesia, Dr. Ph.D. Dedi Rohayana M.Ag, along with other leaders within the Islamic Institute of Pekalongan, Indonesia, respectable speakers, Professor Dr. Yahrul Haq, Vice Chancellor of Abdulrazak University, Maldan, Pakistan, Professor Dr. Muhammad Mizan Aslam, Lecturer of University Malaysia, Perlis, Professor Dr. Abdulrazak Panaemalae Abdul Salam, Lecturer of College University Islam Perlis, Malaysia, Professor Dr. M.Ag, Director of Postgraduate of IAIN Tulung Agung, Indonesia, Dr. Marianne M.C. Laughlin, Lecturer of Curtin University, Australia, Dr. Lily Taylor, Lecturer of Edith Cowan University, Australia, Dr. Zaenal Mustakim M.Ag, Second Vice Rector of IAIN Pekalongan, and Abdulrazak Panaemalae M.A, Master of Arts, Lecturer of Asian Studies Program, School of Liberal Arts, Walailak University, and presenters who I cannot mention by name one by one, and heard guests, especially heads of universities and directors of postgraduate program of state Islamic universities in Indonesia. Alhamdulillah, today on October 24th, 2020, we are blessed with health and well-being, such that we can join this virtual meeting on the third International Virtual Conference on Islamic Studies with the main theme, enforcing environmental management to ensure cultural and spiritual values for socio-economic benefit. The background of this theme is the idea that the happiness of human live in this world is influenced by many factors, among which is its environment, both natural, social, as well as the cultural and civilization. However, what's most important of all is the spiritual environment and the mode of each individual human being. As such, the theme for this year's conference is divided into three sub-themes. Those are Islamic education, which will success 5 aspects. A, Islamic education for sustainability environment. B, education of environmental management challenges. C, school leadership and sustainability environment. D. Education value in environment of developing country. E. Education and religious values for sustainability environment. The second, Islamic law family with 4 aspects. A. The challenges of family resilience of sustainability environment. B. Government and family role of sustainability environment. C. Women and family resilience for sustainability environment. D. Islamic law and environmental dynamics. The third, other studies we would discuss. A. Islamic knowledge authority in environment quality. B. Living Quran and Sunnah in environmental management. C. Environment quality for economic benefit. D. Degradation of environment quality in behavioral management perspective. E. Degradation of in politic perspective. F. Technology and environment waste management. I hope this virtual international conference can be beneficial to all academicians, researchers, and students. Ladies and gentlemen, this international virtual conference has success to receive 96 papers of various perspectives from a diverse scientific background. This is all thanks to the work. This is all thanks to the hard work of all the committees and the assistance of all parties, especially Director of State Islamic Institute of Pekalongan and his staff. Therefore, we would like to say that we are thankful. Our gratitude also goes to the speakers and participants. Next, we humbly ask Director to open this conference. Thank you for all your attention, and I apologize for any inconvenience. Thanks very much. I'm sorry. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Bapak Director, for giving the remark. Ladies and gentlemen, now we would like to invite Director of IAIN Pekalongan, Dr. Ade Dedi Rohayana, to give his welcoming remark and to officially open this international virtual conference. Bapak Rector, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wa bihi nasta'inu ala umuri dunya waddin. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin khatimin nabiyyin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa la haula wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Amma ba'du. Yang terhormat Dr. Makrum M.Ag, Direktur Pasca Sarjana IAIN Pekalongan. Yang terhormat Profesor Dr. Muhammad Mizan Aslam dari University Malaysia Perlis, Malaysia. Yang terhormat Dr. Abdulrazak Panaemalae dari Walailak University Thailand. Yang terhormat Dr. Zaenal Mustakim M.Ag dari IAIN Pekalongan, Indonesia. Yang terhormat Dr. Marianne Laughlin dan Dr. Lily Taylor dari Curtin University Australia, yang terhormat Profesor Dr. Ahyak M.Ag dari IAIN Tulung Agung Indonesia, yang terhormat Profesor Dr. Abdulrazak Olatunji Abdul Salam dari College University Islam Perlis Malaysia, yang terhormat Profesor Dr. Zaharul Haq dari Abdul Wali Khan University Marianne Pakistan, yang terhormat para tamu undangan dan para pemateri di konferensi internasional Sivitas Akademika IAIN Pekalongan, hadirin wa hadirat yang berbahagia. Pertama-tama perkenankan saya mengucapkan syukur alhamdulillah kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala atas segala nikmat dan rahmat yang diberikan kepada kita semua, sehingga hari ini kita dapat menghadiri acara The Third International Virtual Conference on Islamic Studies ICIS 2020 yang diselenggarakan oleh program Pasar Sarjana IAIN Pekalongan. Semoga acara ini berjalan dengan lancar tanpa ada halangan apapun. Salawat dan salam semoga tetap tercurah kepada Baginda Nabi besar Nabi Muhammad SAW, kepada seluruh keluarganya, seluruh sahabatnya, seluruh umatnya, wabil khusus kita yang hadir dalam konferensi internasional secara virtual ini. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Dalam sambutan ini, saya sebagai rektor ingin mengucapkan selamat datang, tentu secara virtual, kepada Bapak Ibu sekalian di Kota Pekalongan, Kota Batik, Kota Kreatif, terutama kepada para keynote speakers dari luar kota dan dari luar negeri. Secara khusus, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya kepada para keynote speakers yang telah berbaik hati meluangkan waktu dan tenaga untuk berbagi ilmu, berbagi pengalaman dengan kita semua di tengah kesibukan agenda kerja Bapak Ibu semuanya. Atas nama pimpinan di IAIN Pekalongan, sekali lagi saya sampaikan ucapan terima kasih. Dan selanjutnya, saya atas nama pimpinan memohon maaf atas kekurangan yang mungkin ada selama konferensi secara virtual ini, terutama terkait dengan pelayanan dan jaringan. Hadirin yang saya hormati, tema yang diangkat dalam The Third International Virtual Conference on Islamic Studies ICIS 2020 oleh program Pasca Sarjana IAIN Pekalongan kali ini adalah Enforcing Environmental Management to Ensure Cultural and Spiritual Values for Socio-Economic Benefits. Penguatan manajemen lingkungan untuk menumbuhkan nilai-nilai budaya dan spiritual dalam rangka menghadirkan keuntungan sosial dan ekonomi. Hadirin yang saya hormati, isu lingkungan selalu menjadi topik penting di banyak negara. Karena isu ini turut menentukan kelangsungan hidup manusia di masa sekarang dan di masa yang akan datang. Kerusakan lingkungan yang terjadi di banyak negara, baik kerusakan tanah, air, dan udara, seringkali memerlukan waktu puluhan, bahkan ratusan tahun untuk dapat diperbaiki dan diatasi. Kerusakan hutan, peralihan fungsi lahan, perburuan liar, dan aktivitas semacamnya juga berpengaruh buruk kepada ekosistem serta seperti punahnya keanekaragaman hayati, dan akibatnya berbagai penyakit menular muncul karena lemahnya fungsi alam dalam mempertahankan keanekaragaman hayati sebagai inang dari berbagai bakteri dan virus selaku sumber penyakit menular. Hadirin yang saya hormati, bakteri dan virus tersebut kemudian menyasar manusia sebagai inang yang baru. Kenyataan menunjukkan bahwa penyebaran penyakit menular meningkat lebih dari 3 kali lipat setiap dekade sejak tahun 1980. Lebih dari 2/3 penyakit ini berasal dari hewan. Penyakit Ebola, HIV, flu babi, dan flu burung merupakan beberapa contoh penyakit menular dari hewan ke manusia. Pandemi COVID-19 saat ini juga merupakan bagian dari degradasi lingkungan tersebut. Kerusakan lingkungan yang berpengaruh buruk pada tatanan kehidupan manusia dan munculnya berbagai jenis penyakit pertanda bahwa lingkungan sedang berada pada kondisi yang krisis. Kenyataan ini hendaknya menyadarkan semua orang untuk merenungkan dan mengevaluasi kembali segala kebijakan, sikap, dan cara pandang yang menyebabkan degradasi ekologis demi masa depan bumi yang lebih baik. Kondisi alam dan lingkungan harus dipahami secara holistik. Hadirin yang saya hormati, Konferensi Internasional Enforcing Environmental Management to Ensure Cultural and Spiritual Values for Socio-Economic Benefits yang diselenggarakan oleh program Pascasarjana IAIN Pekalongan sangat relevan dengan permasalahan dan isu lingkungan di atas. IAIN Pekalongan memandang perlu untuk berkontribusi dalam tataran akademik. Salah satu wujud kontribusi tersebut adalah melalui penyelenggaraan acara konferensi internasional pada saat ini. Pascasarjana IAIN Pekalongan mengemban amanat dan tanggung jawab besar untuk ikut berpartisipasi menjaga keseimbangan lingkungan dan keberlangsungan hidup manusia. Di tengah suasana pandemi COVID-19 ini, Pascasarjana IAIN Pekalongan tetap mendorong kreativitas akademik dan publikasi ilmiah dari para mahasiswa, dosen, dan para peneliti dalam upaya penyelamatan lingkungan sesuai dengan disiplin ilmu yang ditekuni masing-masing. Semoga konferensi ini akan dapat memperkenalkan ide-ide baru terkait langkah-langkah strategis dalam menjaga keseimbangan dan kelestarian lingkungan, sehingga dampak negatif dari kerusakan lingkungan dapat diminimalisir, bahkan tentu dapat dihilangkan. Hadirin yang saya hormati, akhir kata, saya mengucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya kepada semua pihak yang telah berpartisipasi dalam menyukseskan The Third International Virtual Conference on Islamic Studies ICIS 2020 oleh program Pascasarjana IAIN Pekalongan ini, khususnya tentu kepada Direktur Program Pascasarjana dan seluruh tim panitia. Semoga Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala memberkati dan meridhoi kita semuanya. Amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Terima kasih. Dan demikian sambutan yang bisa saya sampaikan dengan membaca Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Maka acara konferensi internasional pada pagi hari ini saya nyatakan dibuka. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to highlight some points from Mr. Rector remarks. Mr. Rector virtually welcomes you all, keynote speakers, invited guests, and presenters to the third International Conference on Islamic Studies 2020, to IAIN Pekalongan, and to Pekalongan City, the Batik City. Mr. Rector expressed his deepest gratitude to the keynote speakers who have kindly allocated their time to share knowledge and experience with all of us in the midst of their busy schedule. On behalf of the top officials of IAIN Pekalongan, Mr. Rector also asks for your forgiveness for any shortcoming that may exist during this virtual conference. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rector said this international conference with the main theme enforcing environmental management to ensure cultural and spiritual values for socio-economic benefit meets its significance because environmental issues help determine human survival in the present and the future. Forest destruction, poaching, and similar activities have a negative impact on ecosystem, leading to biodiversity loss. As a result, various infectious diseases arise because of the weak function of the nature and environment. Mr. Rector quoted that the spread of infectious disease has tripled every decade since the 1980s, and 2/3 of this disease were animal origin. Ebola, HIV, swine flu, and avian flu are some examples of disease transmitted from animal to humans. The current COVID-19 pandemic is also part of this environmental degradation. Therefore, natural and environmental conditions must be observed holistically. Mr. Rector said the main theme of this international conference is very relevant to the narrative explained above. IAIN Pekalongan sees the need to contribute at the academic level. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, Mr. Rector would like to express his deepest gratitude to those who have supported this that International Conference on Islamic Studies 2020, especially to the Director of Postgraduate Program IAIN Pekalongan and all the committee members. Thank you.
We thank you, Bapak Rector, for conveying the welcoming remark. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before closing the opening ceremony, we would like to invite the head of Islamic Education Study Program, Dr. Selamat Untung, to lead the prayers. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Sayyidil awwalin wal akhirin. Sallim. Waradallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala an kulli sadatina ala sahabi Sayyidina Rasulillahi ajma'in. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil alamin. Hamdan syakirin. Hamdan na'imin. Hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamd. Kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhi wa 'azimi sultani. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin. Tibbil qulubi wa dawaiha. Wa afiyatil abdani wa shifaiha. Wa nuril absari wa diyahiha. Wa qutil ajsadi wal arwahi wa ghadaiha. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Allahumma ij'al jam'ana hada jam'an marhuma waj'al tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la tada' fina wala ma'ana syakiyyan wala mahruma. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-huda wat-tuqa wal-'afafa wal-ghina. Allahumma rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas sami'ul alim wa tub 'alaina innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina 'adzaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Doctor, for reciting the prayers. Well, respectful ladies and gentlemen, this is how we end this opening ceremony. We extend our gratitude for this occasion and we wish you a wonderful conference. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
In a moment, the agenda is going to be the conference session. For the first day of ITIS 2020, we have 5 invited speakers. First, Professor Dr. Mohd Aslam from University Malaysia Perlis. Second, Dr. Abdulrazak Panaemalae from Walailak University Thailand. Third, Dr. Zaenal Mustakim from IAIN Pekalongan Indonesia. Next, Dr. Lily Taylor from Edith Cowan University Australia. And the last one is Dr. Marianne Laughlin from Curtin University Australia. The keynote speaker presentation will end at 12 and followed by the question and answer session for about an hour. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite the moderator, Ibu Titien Soewastiningsih, Ph.D., to lead today's conference session. Ibu Titien, we give the stage to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the MC for today. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third International Cultural Conference on Islamic Studies, or ICIS 2020. This conference is organized by the postgraduate program of Institut Agama Islam, IAIN Pekalongan, Indonesia. And I'm Titien, and it's my pleasure to be a moderator for this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know that the theme of this year's conference is enforcing environmental management to ensure cultural and spiritual values for socio-economic benefits. Just now, Mr. Rector has explained about the advantages and disadvantages of the advanced development of our technology that can influence the destructions of our environment. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic this year, the conference is held online. And I hope that everybody, wherever you are fine and always stay safe. Ladies and gentlemen, all right, may I briefly introduce to you all our keynote speakers today. I hope that all of the keynote speakers are ready this morning. The first is Professor Dr. Muhammad Mizan Aslam from University Malaysia, Perlis. And then the second one is Dr. Abdulrazak Panaemalae from Walailak University, Thailand. And the third keynote speaker is Dr. Zaenal Mustakim from IAIN Pekalongan, Indonesia. And the fourth presentation will be presented by two presenters working together in collaboration. Dr. Lily Taylor from Cowan University, Australia, and Dr. Marianne Laughlin from Curtin University, Western Australia. And before we start, let me inform you the guidelines of our plenary sessions for today. All oral presentations are allocated 30 minutes for the talk. And it's special for the fourth paper presentation that will be presented by two keynote speakers, Dr. Lily Taylor and Dr. Marianne Laughlin. For them, we allocate about 45 minutes for the presentation. And it is of utmost importance that you do not exceed the time allocation you have to present your. After our presentation, we have up to 60 minutes question time. Okay, let's begin our virtual conference today by inviting the first keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Muhammad Mizan Aslam from University Malaysia. Please. Are you ready, Professor?
Okay,
Mizan?
I am ready. Yeah, you can hear me, right? Ibu Titien, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's great. Okay, all right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning to all of the people who are able to join us for this session. And first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for inviting me, for having me in this webinar, especially IAIN Pekalongan and Prof. Makrum, the one who connected me. Okay, thank you very much. And I am delighted, grateful with this opportunity, and I'll try to convey some of my knowledge about Islamic studies, about the development of the Islamic education particularly. Okay, so actually I was the first rector for Islamic University of Perlis I am the youngest rector actually. I was the youngest rector in Malaysia. I was appointed by the age of 37, and I had lots of opportunity to work with Islamic education and also to establish newly established university using Waqaf concept. So today I would like to share with all of us about the Waqaf education or endowment for some of the people who may be not really familiar with Waqaf, especially for the non-Muslim, maybe they always call it as an endowment. So means empowering higher education using Waqaf or using the endowment in Islamic concept of means Waqaf. Okay, and then I will start this session with to let everybody here to think in this world, is it the so-called capitalist economic system is the best, or do we have another system that can be said equal or much more better? So this is something we ponder with, have to be think means much more deeper throughout of our life. Okay, even though during this COVID-19, all right, we face lots of trouble, lots of challenges, okay, tantangan dan hambatan. However, throughout our life, particularly, we've been exposed to one called economic system, which is capitalist laissez-faire system. All right. However, for some countries, for example, China, Russia at one time, okay, and also North Korea, for example, they use different economic system, right? And we cannot say that they are far backwards. Okay, even if we have a chance to go to Russia or China, we will amaze with the means improvement that they have. Okay, especially in nowadays, right? Okay, if we back to before the Turkey Osmania, or the Turks Empire, or Osmania means empire that fall down in 1927. But before that, that empire becomes so huge, so successful, and they rule almost 2/3 of the world, and they're not using so-called laissez-faire or capitalist economic system, but they use what we call, and what our topic and what I'm going to share today, it is about Waqaf or endowment. And until today, the value of the endowment that have been set up by the previous Raja or the previous Sultan, okay, since Fatih Mehmed, right, until now, okay, the asset, the value of the assets, actually trillions, right, and most of that fund being used to help poor, to help needy, and also to enhance education particularly. All right, so that's I'm going to share today. All right, and you have to bear in mind one thing: when the colonization happened to the whole world, we start to embrace with the economic system brought by colonial, by superpower, and which is the laissez-faire or the capitalist economic system. However, the system that been established before that, we cannot condemn or undermine them. I may say their system also good. And the system been implemented in the China or in the communist country also good, okay, within their context. And bear in mind, the system, economic system that been established in very remote forest area, okay, orang asli or orang asal, aborigine people, they have no such thing like capitalists. they have no such thing like communism, but they have one system called egalitarian, and that system also suits with them. So none of them left hunger. Okay, tidak ada yang tidak ada makanan. Right? Everybody get enough food. Okay, so for example, one tribal group, they went to the forest for hunting. Okay, and the other group also go for fishing, for example, or they go for different kind of menu in the forest. Okay, in the morning. Then when they come back in the afternoon, every group will bring their food. Okay, some of them might get big, or they get good hunt. Okay, good catch. Some of them might get nothing. However, all of the foods been divided into each of the groups, so none of them will get nothing, even though they come back with empty hand. But the one who get that food or they get that animal, they will cut it into, for example, equally. All right, if they have 7 groups, they will cut it into 7 groups, so everybody will get their share, their portion. So that system also good for their community. So we have to bear in mind, right? And for me, nowadays, I would like to also talk about the wakaf, which is the system that been established in Islamic concept, that been implemented years ago, and it works well. That's, I may say that. All right. Okay. So we know after the imperialism, okay, and now they come the globalization, and also nowadays we have the so-called COVID. So there are lots of challenges had happened. All right. So, for example, in certain countries, we already have the independence more than 60 years. But then we have to see sometimes, because we've been been given the independence, or we fought for the independence for over than 60 or 70 years. Then from time to time we become complacent, okay, especially those countries who have majority of the people, the pribumi. All right. So these people, we become more complacent, and then we are happy with the way of we live. All right. So most of the things that we need being supplied by the government, for example, right? Even in Indonesia, in Malaysia, or in any country. Okay. That's why most of the the pribumi, right, in such countries have one kind of problem, which is we quite complacent, because we as a people in that particular country, the government also from our community, so we've been given lots of support. So then we become more relaxed, okay, and it's like a common problem with all of the pribumi in the whole world, right? Okay. So then nowadays, for certain countries, for example, Malaysia, I give here example Malaysia, we do have what we call nice problem, because we've been living in such a good country, such a good environment. All right, we have plenty of so-called surplus, or we have plenty of money, wealth. Okay, so the government support, all right, give us lots of support in education, particularly in the religious matter. All right. So we have one so-called nice problem, which is even problem, but it is nice because we have surplus, we have lots of wealth, we have lots of money, but we don't know, and we are not manage it nicely. So that's what had happened in certain countries, even though in Malaysia. All right. So also, the awareness level of certain people about the wakaf, okay, especially I talk about Malaysia, quite low, and we not really think the importance of the wakaf, right? So actually it is a problem with all of the Muslim majority country, okay? Because when the Muslim majority country, they have the Islamic government, the people also majority, they have lots of support from the government. And then the concept of wakaf, the empowering of wakaf become slow. Okay, it is not something that vital for the society. But for Muslim minority country, okay, for example, Muslim who live in America, who live in Australia, who lives in any non-Muslim country, so these people, they have very good systematic, okay, they manage wisely about the wakaf or endowment. So that's why for for the non-Muslim country, which is where the Muslims live in that particular country, they can enhance the wakaf. Even they become more sophisticated. Sometimes they adjusted or they make some innovation in the wakaf itself. So it becomes stronger from time to time, and it helps a lot to the, especially to the community, Muslim community, all right? Especially in education, in business, right? In daily life and many more, right? Okay, so what I would like to share today also about the university, all right? The university, which is the one that have lots of significant impact to the society. Okay, so I talk about just now, I talk about the concept a bit, then the historical part, okay, and then now how to sustain. So to sustain the wakaf, actually it is through the education, through the higher education, all right? So we do have, okay, in our history, not only in Muslim country, but non-Muslim country, there are lots of wakaf or endowment. For example, I say here some of the universities that have lots of endowment or wakaf, okay, and they are non-Muslim. For example, the 40 top richest university that use the using the wakaf concept. Okay, number one is Harvard University, which is with the asset of 37.1 billion. Okay, kemudian Yale University, USA, 27.1 billion. University of Texas System, USD 26 billion. Cambridge, 14.5. Princeton, 23.8 billion. Oxford, 10.5 billion. Stanford, 24.7 billion. So we may say all of these universities, they have lots of supports, lots of endowment that been implemented. Okay. Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, for showing the slides. You may follow me through the slide as well. So, okay, I put some of the picture, Harvard University, and then Unida Gontor. Actually, Gontor in Indonesia is one of the example successful story of the university that use the wakaf in their system, right? So I've been to Gontor, right? I've been to Harvard. I saw how beautiful this university they manage wisely in terms of endowment, right? So the university can run without the help from the government, without the help from the budget, national budget, all right? Because we have to understand, especially during this COVID situation, the budget of the country for the education will disturbs, okay, globally. And also, for example, in my country as well, each of university have been slashed out about 30 million. 30 million. Each of the universities in Malaysia have been slashed out 30 million. So if we have the good system in endowment or the wakaf, we can sustain. Even though such kind of thing happen, but we are not really affected, right? So we can see UNIDA, right? They also have from kindergarten up to university level. They have also hotel, okay, all been managed wisely by the Wakaf system of the university. Okay, so they have about 30,000 students in UNIDA. Okay, and the students pay nothing, and the docent or the lecturers also get no pay. However, they can sustain nicely. So something that we have to learn more and more. Okay, I love to stay in UNIDA, and I learn how beautiful the concept of wakaf been implemented in that particular university. Okay, and we got another one in Thailand also. We got Fatoni Islamic University. Okay, rector is Ustaz Ismail Chapakia. Also very good. We can see actually if we see the whole map of the university, we can see there are lots of buildings. Some of the buildings contributed by UAE, and then by the Qatar, by Kuwait, by Saudi, even by Malaysia also. So it means one whole campus, but the building means supported by certain country or certain institution also can be implemented. All right. And then in China, all right, so we can see how beautiful, how big the mosque in China, all right, is not only work as a mosque for pray, but it also an education and become higher education institution using the wakaf concept. Okay, and Muslim Chinese or China Muslim people, they can study for free using the wakaf system, wakaf concept. Okay, so this is in China as well. Okay, they are in college, right? So this is another one that I think most of us knows about, Al-Azhar University in Cairo. Okay, the oldest Islamic university in the world, and managed wisely also by Wakaf. Okay, Al-Azhar University. And then this is what I said just now about Turkey. Okay, Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakif University or Wakaf University. If you remember recently about the Hagia Sophia, the cathedral was conquered by Fatih Sultan Mehmet, and he changed that institution as a mosque, and then later on Mustafa Kamal Atatürk changed it to be the museum. However, what I want to share here, actually they have one concept in Turkey, that such kind of buildings for Sultan Mehmet particularly, he already declared that asset as a wakaf. Wakaf, it means everybody's own that benefit, but then the building itself have been given to the god, so the benefit will be used by the people. So now using that money, they established Wakaf University. They call Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakif University, right? And also we can see there are lots of assets since before the colonization, before the Mustafa Kamal Atatürk came to power. There are lots of buildings in Turkey, so all of them mostly been declared as a wakaf, and the benefit goes to the people, right? And this is one of the school, they call Ihram Sizadi. So this is the school in Buyuk Cemeje. So this is very good, very nice school. Okay, I've been there. So you can see some of the facilities. They have very high tech, up to date technology. Okay, even the school, the primary school, but it looks like university. So they have this is some of the Malaysian students over there. There are also Indonesian students. You can see they have swimming pool. Okay, right. So next. Okay, this is some of the Malaysian students. So they have swimming pool. They have this sauna. Okay, they call haram. Okay, and next. They also have okay, next slide. Okay, they also have this gymnasium. All right. So this is all high tech, and also the laundry, and all of them actually it is a wakaf from the asset that been transferred to the country, and benefit to the whole people. Okay, so okay, now I go to my last slide. Actually, I would like to share here the challenges that we if you could take my slides to page 39, please. 39, yeah. So the challenges of the wakaf in higher education. So like I said just now, one of the problem, or for certain country becomes like a nice problem. It is about how to manage the finance or the keuangan, which is we do have lots of money sometimes, but we don't know how to make it sustain. And at this stage, right, for those who watch this kind of conversation or this kind of webinar, I think if we have a chance, go to the closest, maybe Gontor or Fatoni University, right? And if we have a chance, go to Turkey, we can see how nice and how innovative they are in managing finance using the wakaf concept. Okay, and then also we can see how the people manage about the curriculum, especially embed the concept of wakaf, and the students should be exposed in the wakaf or in endowment. Okay, if we go to, for example, to Harvard, right, even at the stage when they have this convocation, right, we can find even every chairs on the stage itself actually been given or sponsored or endowed by certain people. For example, okay, I want to walk off or to give my sponsorship to one chair on the stage, and they might put my name. Okay, so the contributor, which is Mizan Aslam, for example, or Ibu Titien, for example. So it means we now the thinking of wakaf endowment, especially for the Muslim countries, must be money or land. Okay, so not more than that, either cash money or land. Okay, and also when we talk about land, so mostly they give land that which is very have very less commercial value. So the land that have very far from the city, for example, the land that maybe most of us use them as a graveyard, not more than that, right? However, if we can, why don't we give in the middle of the city? So that particular building or the land can be built one very huge, significant or iconic building in the city center, and we name it as this is wakaf building. Okay, and then also the benefit from that building goes to the people, goes to the Majlis Agama Islam or Islamic Council, something like that. Okay, so what I want to tell you, the second point here is to embed such kind of understanding of wakaf in education as well. So then later on, when the students graduated, they have this kind of thinking. Okay, maybe we can create before you graduated. For example, your batch have to contribute something to the university, to the school, to the faculty. Okay, and later on you will be proud because this is something that means wakaf from us, from my batch. Okay, so when we have such kind of understanding, such kind of awareness, so it will grow and we will transfer that knowledge to our children later on or our students. Okay, and then also the pemasaran, okay, or the marketing, okay, the law also have to be strengthened. Okay, the marketing, how to get more fund, how to get more wakaf or endowment. Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Mizan, you
Yep.
have 1 minute to
Thank you.
talk.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu. Okay, and then also collaboration, right? This is important. We collaborate between countries, between institutions to get bigger knowledge and to learn from each other, right? And then also the governance itself have to be strengthened. The experts, especially in wakaf, also we can engage them to contribute the knowledge, the strategy to strengthen the endowment. Okay, so okay, and I think last slide 45. Okay, this is my conclusion. Okay, so the rest I think maybe moderator can share the slides later on. However, what I want to say here in the conclusion, the future of not only Islamic countries but all of the country, especially when we talk about higher education, actually it is about the wakaf or the endowment. From time to time, the burden of the country become more and more. Okay, so we cannot liaise with the country's budget means forever, but we have to strengthen or to make ourselves so-called financial sustainability. So we should strengthen our wakaf, our endowment, and use that one to grow it up, okay, and to get more income, sustainable income, in order to sustain the higher education, right? So this is the things that have to be built not only by the Muslim country but also by the non-Muslim country. And then later on, the education system will become better and will be independent. Okay, so that's it from me. Thank you very much, and I would like to know more from you, and I'm happy to answer all of the questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mizan, for your interesting topic you share. This is about the wakaf system to empower education, especially Islamic higher education, good system of endowment. Okay, let me invite for the second keynote speaker for today, Dr. Abdulrazak Panaemalae from Walailak University of Thailand. And he will present about natural environment, discourse of monotheism. Are you ready, Dr. Abdulrazak?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. First of all, I would like to say Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to you all, to all panelists and my colleagues, Pak Mahrum Khalil, and others who are teamwork of this very knowledgeable conference today, and to all students. I would like to say also thank you for IAIN for inviting me for joining us this morning to present from my less knowledge, my experience. What I want to say today about the discourse of monotheism, wacana ketauhidan. I want to say the issue of the environment, nature and environment, the natural environment from the Tauhid perspective. I'm trying to operate my PowerPoint now because I understand that what I understand the EN will be prepare for me my PowerPoint. So wait minutes, so sorry. Wait minutes.
Dr. Abdulrazak, you would like to share your own presentations, or you?
I'm looking my PowerPoint now because in my desktop. But what I understand, AN will be ready prepared for me. My PowerPoint.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Sebentar.
This one you can have it. We have it.
Can you show, please?
Yes, natural environment. Okay, that one. Okay, that's one on the screen. Can you see that?
I can't hear. I can see. I cannot see the. I can't see anything. I cannot see anything. Okay. Okay, never mind. I want to talk about the natural environment. My first topic is about the natural environments and us. What I want to emphasize here that I don't want to say about the environment, but I want to combine with the natural environments, and us. If you see the reality now, most of us when we are feel down and feel not good, we are looking for the natural environments because we want to back to the environment and the nature. We want to live peaceful. We want to stay cool under the greens environment and the nature. So this is the reality of human being. And at the same time, human beings, if we were looking back to the future, the past in all of the civilizational of humankind in the world, we found that we are actually we are actually imitation from the environment and the nature in terms of the buildings, our civilization, our society, our community, and our development. Because we learn a lot from the environment and the nature. This is the truth and the reality in our life. So because okay, thank you very much. And next slide, please go to the next slide. Okay, this is the natural environment and us. We imitation from the natural environment. It built up our society and civilization. This is the truth. If we looking back to the past and we study about the history of the civilization of each country in the world, and even the scientists or the philosopher or the poets or the writers and authors, most of us are imitation from the nature and natural. This is the what I want to say, that because natural environment very benefit to us as humankind. We cannot learn from the other source, events, how to live, how to survive ourselves. So a natural environment very benefit to us. Okay, next slide. And I want to change natural environment. Okay, please go to the next slide. I want to go to the more deeper from the term of the natural environment. I use here the cosmic verses, because when we talk about the monotheism, Tawheed, we have to look back to our source, our primary source. I mean the Al-Quran and the Sunnah. So if you are reading the Al-Quran, we found that so many verses talking about the cosmos. So I call this the cosmic verses. Al-Quran contains 114 chapters and 6,236 verses, and most of them 750 verses say about nature and the relate phenomena. Okay, next slide. Why would the Allah talking say about the natural and cosmos, and the cosmos what we call cosmic verses? Because from that we have to learn a lot, how to know yourself, how to know ourselves, and then we have to know who we are. So in the hadith, ponder God creature, do not ponder about God entity. Tafakkiru fi ayatillah wa la tafakkiru fi zatillah. So no. Back to yes. Tafakkiru fi ayatillah. That means you have to think about the signs, the symbol from the nature, from the environment that Allah gave us. From that we can learn a lot how to survive and how to feed ourselves, our children, our kids, our family, at the same time to know who we are. So the environment, the nature, not only benefit for our socio-economy, but at the same time also benefit to us as humankind, human being of the God. We have to pay our identity as human being and humankind to our God. So God is showing sign at every moment, ayat after ayat, to those who have enough intelligence to grasp as a sign. So from that sign we can learn, we can study, we can understand who we are. Okay, next slide. And if we read the chapter of Arun, Surah Rum, the Romans. For example, from the verse, we can find that so many verses that Allah emphasizes and reminds all humankind that la ayatin liqaumin yatafakkarun, la ayat lil alamin, la ayati liqaumin yasmaun. Okay, next slide. And others, if we read so many we found that so many surahs, so many verses in the Al-Quran, we can find that Allah always remind us la'allakum tattaqun, la'allakum taqilu, la'allakum tattaqun, la'allakum tazakkarun, for us to use our potential as human being to think about the gods, about the truth, and about ourselves, because the nature benefit to us in context of to know ourselves in deeply, and at the same time we can know the gods. Okay, next. So in Ali Imran verses chapter Ali Imran verses 191, our Lord said, Wama, Allah said that Rabbana ma khalaqta batilan, Rabbana ma khalaqta haza batilan. Allah, God create this in this I mean this the work, the cosmos, the nature in this in vain. Allah tidak menciptakan alam ini dengan sia-sia. Allah menciptakan alam ini supaya kita berfikir, mengambil iktibar, and take this the cosmos, the universe, the nature for the lesson, menjadi iktibar, menjadi pelajaran for us to think. So this is what I mean, the natural environments, just not environments for the green earth and the benefit for the economics only, but benefit for our value as humankind, as a humble Allah, as in terms of to know who you are. Okay, next. Like Socrates said, that know yourself. Very important thing that human beings have to know who you are, know ourselves. So that why Socrates long time ago said that know yourself is very important things, very important, and the first thing have all humankind to think about. And like the Sufi, the saying of Sufism, whoever knows himself then will surely know his Lord. Man arafa nafsahu faqad arafa rabbah. Siapa kenal dirinya, maka dia akan kenal ke Tuhan. Whoever know himself then will surely know his Lord. Because himself, I mean himself, diri kita ini, I mean including the natural environments, alam juga. Karena diri kita sebahagian daripada alam. So we have to learn a lot from the alam ini to know who you are. Okay, next slide. Like the Toshihiko Izuzu, a professor of theology from the university in Japan, said that all this should be understood not as a simple natural phenomena, but as so many signs or symbol pointing the divine intervention in human affair. Okay, next. So what is the other scholars say about the Al-Quran? No religion has ever given a stimulus to scientific progress comparable to that of Islam. This is Muhammad Asad. The letter of Muhammad Asad said about the Islam and the truth and the verses and the Al-Quran and the natural human environments. Okay, next slide. Like the Maurice Bucaille from the France, they said the Al-Quran description of nature were for superior. Okay, next slide. Gary Miller, a mathematician from the Canada, said that a truly scientific approach to the Quran is possible because the Quran offers something that is not offered by other religion scripture in particular and other religion in general. Okay, I hope you understand. Okay, next slide. Okay, next slide. So the problem is what will happen if man fail to read nature? Bagaimana akibatnya akan terjadi jika manusia itu gagal membaca alam ini, membaca alam ini? Apa akan terjadi? Yang pertama, from my best knowledge, from my best experience, my research, I found that berlakunya depression symptom, berlakunya tekanan jiwa, penyakit kemurungan berlaku because now I'm doing my research about this depression symptoms amongst Thai people in my village. So I found that most of them are in depression symptom because they don't know they can. In my conclusion, because most of them cannot read the nature, they don't know who are create the nature, who are the true, who are the God. So at the same time, we found that many suicides amongst Thai people, and I think this crisis is not only in the Thai, but in the part of other world, like in other part of the world, they most of them they deny the God. They declare themselves are atheists, that they don't believe in the truth and God. So when they fail in this read to the nature, I think the problem is like the depression symptom and at the same time suicides among themselves. So I think that is all my presentation to share with you. I hope we can share and we can it benefit to you in amongst students in order to understand the natural environment. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for Dr. Abdulrazak Panaemalae, who has presented about the natural environment, discourse of monotheism. This is explaining about cosmic system in our nature is actually a sign of monotheism perspective. It's very interesting topic, and we hope that we can enjoy or we can understand Dr. Abdulrazak's presentation very well. All right, next for the third presenter, our keynote speaker, will be Dr. Zaenal Mustakim, M.Ag, from IAIN Pekalongan, Indonesia. His paper will be about the management of change towards a globally competitive Islamic higher education institution. Dr. Zaenal Mustakim, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, thank you. Now, time is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Moderator for the time, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in this special event, the third International Virtual Conference on Islamic Studies, I would like to present the material entitled Management of Change toward a globally competitive Islamic higher education institution. Okay, this material is inspired by Albert Einstein's statement, "This world keep changing, nothing remain constant. The only thing that is constant is the change itself." Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's get down to introduction. Okay. It is accepted that the age of disruption require change. Change, either planned or unplanned, is inevitable, including in Islamic higher education institution. In managing organizational changes, there are some challenges for Islamic higher education institution, namely high competition in both international and national levels, rapid development of science, information and communication technology, and demand for serving as a laboratory that can solve social problems. Without adaptable effort and action strategies in the face of change, Islamic higher education institution will gradually become obsolete in such a way that it will lose their existence. Jadi kalau tidak beradaptasi dengan usaha-usaha yang baik dan juga strategi-strategi yang baik, maka institusi pendidikan Islam bisa eksistensinya bisa hilang. Next, the strengthening effort. Therefore, the enactment of change management is considered one of endeavors to counter challenges of Islamic higher education institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, let's proceed with the next part. It is necessary to define what management of change is. We can notice that there are some notion of change management. Jadi saya dapat mengungkapkan beberapa pandangan ya, terkait dengan change management ini. One of them is management of change is commonly defined as an effort change is an organization by maximizing organizational resources efficiently and effectively in order to achieve predetermined goals. Management of change is a systematic process of organizational knowledge and resources to create or influence changes in people affected. Okay, to deal with organizational changes, particularly in Islamic higher education institutions, I mentioned 6 pillars of change management. Jadi ada 6 pilar untuk membangun manajemen perubahan ini. First, leadership. Yang pertama kepemimpinan. Second, flexible organizational culture. Itu adalah budaya organisasi yang fleksibel. Kemudian third, psychological readiness. Kemudian dilanjutkan dengan agent of change. Jadi kalau manajemen perubahan, maka organisasi itu harus punya agen-agen perubahan itu sendiri. Kemudian yang kelima atau berikutnya, fifth, facilities, fasilitas yang harus ada. And the last is change as a culture. We come to the first pillar of change management. It is leadership. Islamic higher education institutions require transformational leadership to make changes in the age of disruption. Transformational leadership is a leadership style in which a leader is able to inspire employees, build organizational values, develop organizational vision, create changes, and seek new breakthrough to increase organizational productivity and quality. And the leader, therefore, should be able to make employees aware of the importance of teamwork and collective hard work to improve organizational performance. In addition, a leader should be able to promote employees' sense of belonging and sense of responsibility to organization. Another pillar of change management is flexible organizational culture. Organizational culture in Islamic higher education institution embraces several aspects, such as vision of the founders, certain practices in the organization, action and behavior of the top leaders, socialization, metaphor, and annual ritual of the organization. It takes a strong will to habituate organizational values. The organizational values are sometimes not included in standard operational procedure. They become the unwritten rules of the game. They are embedded in the individual members and are enforcing one another. Psychological readiness becomes the next pillar of change management to discuss. All the academic community of Islamic higher education institution should have strong willingness to change and are ready to move out of their comfort zone into the more challenging one. With psychological readiness, the academic community of educational institution will be able to understand some important issues. For example, what changes are being proposed, why the changes are important to do, what involved in the change, what impact will be obtained when the changes occur, what risk will be obtained when the changes don't occur, how the changes are carried out, and what stages will be made in response to the changes. One strategy to condition the academic community is by conducting continuous socialization at every moment of academic activities, such as at work meetings, maybe seminars, focus group discussion, atau FGD, workshop, and other academic forums. Ladies and gentlemen, agent of change constitute the fourth pillar of change management. Manajemen perubahan di sebuah institusi harus mempunyai agen perubahan itu sendiri. Agent of change possess rules in doing socialization and delivering information, promoting, selling, or instructing changes in accordance with their authority. Serving as a facilitator, mentoring, playing as role models, preventing problems, offering solution if problem occur, even coordinating with consultants, and imposing sanction, either administrative or social sanction, or both, in accordance with their authority. The chain agent are grouped into two, namely the main agent and the supporting agents. The main agent include top management, heads of section of divisions, heads of unit, and those who play a key role in the changes. Meanwhile, the supporting agent include employees, all those who understand and have a willingness to change. The main agent lead and control the changes, whereas the supporting agent influence other employees who don't understand, all those who are still opposing the changes. How about facilities? It is worth mentioning that facilities are also essential to manage changes in Islamic higher education. Accordingly, fulfilling required facilities is the fifth pillar of change. Facilities highlighted here include adequate facilities and infrastructure that support the attainment of organizational changes. Some important points related to facilities cover types of facilities in accordance with needs, number of facilities, distribution of facilities, price of facilities, and quality of facilities. Facilities include not only magnificent buildings that may symbolize successful change in higher education, but also ICT, information and communication technology facilities. That the latter is seen more important.
Suaranya, Pak.
Suaranya gimana ya? Suaranya gimana? Okay. The last pillar, demand change as a culture in Islamic higher education institution. The new culture, which is the embodiment of the vision and mission of the institution, should become a common agenda to realize. With policies and planning managed by the leaders, the new culture can be manifested and strengthened through scientific activities or role modeling. This way, a better nuance of change can be expected to happen. There is responsibility for making decisions in order to bring out better change. In addition to the active role of the leader, it is important for all elements of the organization to have awareness and willingness to preserve the culture of change. Management of change in Islamic higher education institution competing globally must have one agile leader. Islamic higher education institution should be with an agile leader to compete with the demand of globalization. Consequently, it should have particular characteristics to deal with global competition. The characteristics include self-discipline, maybe, risk-taking attitude, trying to win, power of simplicity, growth mindset, assertive communication, broad perspective, ya perspektif yang luas, dan critical thinking, and creative thinking. Okay, not only does an Islamic higher education institution require an agile leader, it is also equipped with dynamic human resources. Similar to a leader, Islamic higher education institution should encourage the human resources to expand dynamism about organizational changes. For this reason, human resources should have flexibility in change, should be a lifelong learners, hold adaptive capacity, and demonstrate creativity and innovation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we reach to the conclusion of this material. There are some main points to ponder. Firstly, change is inevitable. It will certainly occur, planned or unplanned, including in Islamic higher education institution. Secondly, the ability to adjust to new conditions is a key. Next, it's pivotal that Islamic higher education institution be able to manage changes by strengthening the pillars of change, leadership, organizational culture, flexible to changes, psychological readiness of members, agent of change, the provision of facilities, and making change as a culture. Lastly, Islamic higher education institution should be with an agile leader and dynamic human resources. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how this matter ends. Hopefully, it gives us value and meaningful insights for us. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Zaenal Mustakim, for his presentation about management of change towards a globally competitive Islamic higher education institutions. That I can say that we need adaptation. We have to adapt ourselves towards the global change that brings about many challenges. And for that, we have to we have 6 pillars of change, and like number 1 is leadership, organizational culture. The third is psychological readiness. Number 4 is agents of changes, and number 5 facilities. And the last but not the least, we have to make change as a culture. That's very interesting talk. And we hope that we will be able to have the adaptations of change to improve the quality of higher education, especially Islamic higher education. Thank you.
Correct, Ms. Titien.
Okay, and then for the last presentation will be presented by 2 presenters here, Dr. Lily Taylor and Dr. Marianne Laughlin. Are you ready?
Yes, we are. Can you hear us?
We can hear you very clearly.
Oh, that's perfect. I just have to get our PowerPoint started.
Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Lily Taylor will explain about education for sustainability. Is there room for values? This very interesting talk, I think. And they are from Western Australia. What time is it there, Lily?
It is 11:42.
11:42. You are 1 hour advance.
Yes, we are indeed.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you
Dr.
so much.
And Dr. Marianne, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. I just okay, I just have to get the PowerPoint started. Okay, no, that didn't work, did it? Okay, just a sec. We will get this going. Okay, share the screen.
That's all right. We are waiting.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. You have our presentation if we can't get it to work, don't you? Okay. No, I won't panic.
Okay.
Can you see something?
Not yet, Lily.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Or maybe we can help you to share.
Yes, I think you probably need to. It's particularly with the second slide where I need someone to listen very carefully. Okay, can you start the screen for us? Okay. Not yet. So whilst we are waiting for the PowerPoint to start, we would like to thank you very much for the invitation to do this keynote at your university. We are very honored to do this. So my name is Lily Taylor. Yes, perfect. So my name is Lily Taylor, and if you could it to the presentation setting, that would be perfect. Yeah, that's great. Great, fantastic, thank you. So my name is Lily Taylor and I'm from Edith Cowan University in Perth. I am a specialist in teacher education. I focus on teaching science and sustainability education to our teacher education student. Edith Cowan University in Australia is one of the largest teacher education institutions. Actually, it's the second largest. And the other wonderful presenter here is Dr. Marianne Laughlin.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
And she works with me very closely. She's a specialist in Aboriginal education, and she is from Curtin University in Perth, in Western Australia. So we thought that we are going to focus our presentation today on the practicalities of education for sustainability. How do we actually teach education for sustainability in the classroom with taking into account the necessity for values? Now, given that this is that your university is an Islamic university and that you're sitting in Indonesia, there may be an assumption that Australia is very, well, what would you call
Different.
it? Western, you know, just very Christian dominated. And I actually did a little bit of a research study yesterday to find out that in Australia, only about 52% of the population identify as Christian. And the rest is taken up by over 100 different religions. So when we talk about bringing values into, could you just hold that the changing still, because I'm still on the first slide. So basically, when we are talking education for sustainability, we need to take into account that there are all these different value systems. So this is just to give you a little bit of an idea which environment we are working in. Okay, so now I'm on the second slide. Given that the main focus of this conference is on sustainability and values, what is the situation we are currently facing? As we are all aware, there is issues of climate change. There are some people who still reject the idea that climate change is actually caused by humans. we got loss of cultural and biodiversity, we got habitat loss. God, you're changing faster than I can speak. Here in Australia, we've got problems with floods, we got problems with bushfires, and basically what we can all say is that our planet is in crisis, and so are we. So whether you are Christian or Muslim or whatever, wherever you are on this planet, these are global issues. And, you know, as people of the book, we know that God has created this earth and this universe for us to look after. And by the looks of it, we are not doing a great job at this point in time. So if you move on to the next slide, given that we are educators, we focus on education, and in particular, education for sustainability is regarded as best practice at the moment. But there are also all these terms floating around like sustainability education and environmental education. And I was wondering if you could just take a minute or two to think about what you think the difference between those three different approaches may be. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague Marianne, who's going to take you to through the next few slides.
Thanks. Thank you, Lily. So thinking about what is sustainability, I think it has many different meanings for many different people. But it really means meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And this is the United Nations World Commission. So we need to live the way we live now, but not in the way that we are living, as we are basically destroying the world. So we all need to be aware of sustainability, and we all need to be aware of how we can create a more sustainable lifestyle for ourselves, and hence for our children and our grandchildren. Okay, next slide. So Mahatma Gandhi, a very great man, said, "The earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed." And I think that that's a very truthful thing to say, and that greed is actually one of the basic things that drives a lack of sustainability, is that we want to live now, we want to have everything now. We're not prepared to wait, and we're not prepared to actually consider the lives of others as long as we're okay.
Okay, next slide. Looking at what the previous speakers were speaking about, with Professor Aslam speaking about and touching on indigenous knowledge systems and the egalitarian sharing cultures. And then the second speaker, Dr. Panaemalae, speaking about scriptural knowledge and the relation to mental health problems, and Dr. Mustakim speaking about sustainable institutional change. What we can see there is that there are different understandings and different notions of what sustainability means. In the Brundtland report in 1987, which is one of the early but very profound and trend-setting publications in the sustainability literature, 5 different types of sustainability were mentioned. Environmental, which is what a lot of people are thinking about, but we also have cultural sustainability, we have social sustainability, and economic sustainability. And on top of that, there is also the notion of personal sustainability. And when we look very closely, we can see how closely interrelated these sustainability types are. You can't basically look at one without looking at the other. Next slide, please. The problem is that when you focus on when you actually look at the different types of sustainability, you will notice that each one of these holds a certain set of values. And if you focus only on one or only on two, you will notice that these values sometimes clash. Like, for example, you can't have, a caring attitude matched up with greed. You can't pair goodwill with carelessness. And looking after the environment, what is dominating there? Is it economic benefit, or is it environmental, cultural, personal benefit for everyone? So personal sustainability would be, for example, linking in with what Speaker 2 was speaking about when he talked about mental health issues related to not being able to see nature in its true spiritual existence. So if we could move on to the next slide. Okay, so when we look at politics, for many politicians, and unfortunately, politicians very often are the decision makers who hold the purse, if you like, they hold the money and therefore a lot of power. Economic sustainability is very often regarded as the most important aspect of sustainability. And we basically have the values clash between economic growth versus environmental sustainability. We already know that we've got, through unbridled economic growth, we have a loss of biodiversity, to which some politicians respond by thinking, dreaming about moving to planet B, which, well, I don't need to mention names, but you probably know who I'm talking about, who is planning to move humanity, or at least a few of us, over to planet Mars. Yeah. Okay, so can we move on to the next slide? So the next very closely related issue is cultural sustainability and social sustainability, and how these issues are linked to the loss of cultural diversity. So we've already spoken about the loss of biodiversity. Many people actually speak about the loss of biocultural diversity, and this is actually leading to a worldwide system that is not sustainable. Professor Aslam in the first presentation talked about indigenous knowledge system, which actually links in very well to what we also want to talk about. Because if you want to know how to live sustainably in a particular environment, you need to learn about which local knowledge is already available to live sustainably in a particular environment. And I'm going to hand over to Marianne to speak about the next few slides. Next slide, please.
Okay. So in Australia, Australia's First Nations and Indigenous people are Australian Aboriginal people, and they have lived in this country for many years, up to 80,000 years, and they have lived sustainably. However, because of colonisation in this country, a lot of that cultural knowledge has been lost, and there's great division between Australian Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people. Because we've had situations in Australia like the enormous bushfires we had in the beginning of this wonderful year, 2020, there has been a push to start engaging in some Aboriginal worldviews. And so this third space methodology is a way of Aboriginal worldview and non-Aboriginal worldview coming together in a third space. So we use this Venn diagram. And when a person comes into that space, they learn about each other's culture and the sustainable ways of moving forward with that culture. This particular space can be manipulated to represent any two people who have really got nothing much in common or little in common. So if we take the case of the postgraduate student, the postgraduate student would be, say, in space number 1, which is the non-Aboriginal worldview. And space number 2 is taken by the postgraduate student's supervisor. So the two come together into that third space and they learn from each other. And that's how they walk forward, and they form a new pathway by exchanging knowledge and learning about each other. But in Australia, we are actually coming to the point where we do need to start looking at a lot of this Aboriginal cultural knowledge. Could I have the next slide, please? So in Australia, Aboriginal people lived sustainably in Australia for 80,000 years. We have Aboriginal fire management, which is cool burning. So you have just little fires. You don't have these great, huge, gigantic fires like we have now. And in the process of doing that, you burn off the undergrowth, but you leave the trees. Then new grass comes through and more animals will come. And because Aboriginal people moved around, when they came back to that particular place where they'd burnt, there would be new grass and there would be more animals. But the other thing was never take more than you would use for that day. So none of this going and, you know, killing 500 kangaroos just in case you get hungry next week. And because of that movement, we see on the screen a little hut, which is made from bark. So it's a non-permanent structure, but it certainly keeps you dry and warm, but not too warm. We have hemp rope, which was made. We had fish farms where right inland with rocks, people built these very permanent structures. And when the tide came in, they brought the fish. And the fish would be caught, and quite a large community developed in this particular part of the world in South Australia, where the fish farms were. And we also have the honey, which Aboriginal people call sugar bag, which was actually considered a delicacy. People would climb the tree and get the sugar bag out, and it would be used as to trade with other groups of people. It was one of those things that really was worth a lot at the time. Can I have, thank you. So, I'm just on my favourite subject, and I'm sorry, I do tend to rattle on. So education for sustainability, the focus is on knowledge, on content knowledge, but also, and knowing those facts, but also on attitudes and skills and a readiness for action and values. So we need to consider things like hands-on inquiry learning, which leads, because we have knowledge and content, this leads to an ability to have critical thinking and to become innovative in new ways of developing answers to the problems that we have. And this also incorporates local knowledge. So we are ready for action, and because there are the next generation coming up, we're hopeful that they will perhaps take a more open view to maintaining our planet's health.
Next slide, please. Yeah.
That's me.
So, yeah,
Okay.
the United Nations. Yeah.
Yes, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We can use this as a guide as we teach. These goals were developed by the United Nations in 2015 to support the well-being of all people in this world. There are 17 goals, and the time that we get to the end of these goals is in 2030. And it is hoped that because all member states of the United Nations have taken up these goals, that by 2030, people will no longer have to live in poverty, and they will be able to live a sustainable life, and the planet will be sustained, and that human beings may actually have changed themselves in the way they move forwards.
Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so we could summarize that education for sustainability uses the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as guideposts for, what we should teach about, but also, looking at the Australian and the Indonesian curriculum, we need to justify what we do in the classroom. And in Australia, we can do this by looking at what we call the cross-curriculum priorities. So we've got two cross-curriculum priorities that are of particular importance. One is called sustainability, and the other one, which I didn't put on the slide, is called Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures, which basically brings in the indigenous Aboriginal worldviews that Marianne was just talking about. We also have so-called general capabilities in our curriculum, and they include a capability called ethical understanding. Now, I am aware that in Indonesia, you've got a very strong focus in education on character education, and obviously also on Islamic and spiritual values. So when you teach education for sustainability, you can use these curriculum aspects to ground your teaching in the curriculum. Next slide, please. So how do we teach sustainability and values in practice? Education for sustainability often involves strategies directly drawn from values education, and this makes sense for two reasons. One is that sustainability itself can be regarded as a value, and two is that all sustainable living requires values-based decision-making. What I eat, what I wear, how much energy I use, should I use the car to drive to work or should I ride my bicycle? All of these are values-based decisions and we make them on a daily basis. So if I could get the next slide, please. Today I want to talk about two particular strategies that we are using in education for sustainability here in Australia to teach our students. One approach is called looking at argumentation, looking at socio-scientific issues or SSIs. These are issues that are potentially contentious and that involve some values-based decision-making. When we focus on socio-scientific issues that involve sustainability topics, this usually involves a form of values-based argumentation. So the teacher teaches the content beforehand and the students then have to adopt a position which is either for a certain issue or against a certain issue. And then we basically get the students to argue and to debate their particular standpoint. This is one form or strategy that is directly drawn from values education and can be used in education for sustainability. If we get the next slide. Okay, this is basically my favorite form of values education strategy. This is where much of my research has been in, and also the research of my doctoral students, which is called ethical dilemma story pedagogy. As you can guess, in this particular strategy, we are using stories. And in those stories, there are ethical dilemmas that require us to make values-based decisions. They are woven into the story, and we engage our students in that decision-making on behalf of the characters in the story. So if I could get the next slide. So the student engages in two types of thinking. One is called critical thinking. Now, we are all aware of this. And, you know, there is a lot of literature about how good it is to teach critical thinking to our students. But critical thinking is looking outwards. It's looking at critically assessing a problem. Reflective thinking, on the other hand, means looking inwards and looking at your own values. Now, this process is referred to as values clarification. And if you could click one more time. Okay, yeah, because once you've clarified your values, you then engage in decision making in the story. If you're interested in this particular type of strategy, I have put the link to our website, sociallyresponsiblescience.com.au. And when you click on it, you will find examples of so-called ethical dilemma stories, and also instructions on how to use them, how to use ethical dilemmas in the classroom, and how to teach them. If we go to the next slide. Yep. So we've got several current and former doctoral students using it, like, for example, Dr. John Worth at the Lutheran Christian College in Toowoomba in Australia. We've got Dr. Neni Mariana in Surabaya at UNISA. We've got Dr. Yuli Ramawati at Universitas Negeri Jakarta. And we've got Hisashi Otsuchi, who is at Toyo University in Japan. And they are all using this strategy after having done their doctorates. So as you can see, we've got different religions here and different value systems. And this particular approach to values education in the context of education for sustainability lends itself to include values across so many traditions and to basically teach education for sustainability successfully. Thank you very much for listening. Next slide, please.
Thank you, everybody.
Terima kasih. And yeah, thank you very, very much.
Yes, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. And thank you very much for asking us.
Thank you very much, Marianne and Lily. And it is very pleasure to have you with us here, even though COVID-19 will separate us in different world, but we are still communicating each other. And it is true, very true, that moral values is a must to maintain our living sustainability, especially in education here. We have also in Indonesia that values for the sustainability is already be structured in our curriculum, but it is now limited only in knowledge, contents, and facts. And it is very difficult to build the attitudes and high skill order thinking, and also the readiness for action. It's very difficult. And thank you for the 5 keynote speakers for today. And now is the time for question and answers. And I hope that the 5 presenters or keynote speakers are still there. We have 3 sessions for question and answer. It's up to 60 minutes. And every session, and each session, I will invite 3 people to address questions, or maybe they want to give their opinions or perspectives. And of course, for the people or the participants who will address questions or give any opinions, please mention the names of the keynote speakers whom your questions are addressed. We are using what we call as you can raise your hands, or maybe I can, there are already 2 questions. The first is from Mr. Arif Wibowo to Professor Mizan Aslam. Are you there? Are you still with us, Professor Mizan?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm here. Yeah.
All right. Okay. The first question is for you. How do universities collect endowment funds? Because in Indonesia, we have a system at the state university, especially if it is still a BLU. The LU means funded or subsidized by the government. In Indonesia, the system, a state university will be very limited by government regulation. And the second question is also for Professor Mizan from Muhammad Wahyu Iza. The question is how to overcome the work-off system so that it is not mistaken for use by some people, as well as the opinion of the professor regarding about the work-off in the industrial era 4.0. And then we are still waiting for the third question, if any. You can raise your hand, participants. We are still waiting for another participant to ask question. Can a moderator ask question? You think? Benar, okay. For the third question from me to Marianne and Lily, of course, because my basic is also in education. Regarding with your presentations is about how to teach by using ethical dilemma story pedagogy. Are you still there, Marianne?
Yes, we are there.
How to implement this approach for the early childhood education? I mean, the early childhood students we have here in Indonesia, that the students, the kids or the children from 3 to 6 years old, we have the system here as the early childhood education. How can we teach them by using ethical dilemma story pedagogy to there? This is my question.
Okay. Well, basically, we use as the foundation of thinking about ethical dilemma stories the fact that teachers across the ages, all spiritual teachers, for example, have always used storytelling, and also in indigenous cultures, storytelling has always been used to get complex issues across to the learners. Now, when you look at the literature, they will tell you that the psychological literature, that children only from year 5 or 6 upwards are able to engage in, an ethical discussion. However, what my students have found in their research, and I had 2 students doing their doctorates on early childhood, they found that very young children often have very well developed attitudes and values already in place. And of course, you would have to choose a story that is suitable for the age and using age-appropriate language. But what you would do is you would engage the children in a conversation about the issue that is contained in the story. So one of my students found that little children have really amazing, if you like, knowledge that they have just picked up from listening to their parents on some environmental issues. And they are quite capable of having a conversation if the teacher is prepared to address issues that are not, not straightforward, where we've got different values.
Okay, thank you very much for Dr. Lily and Dr. Marianne, who has answered the questions very, very clearly. Okay, thank you. And then from Professor Mizan, there are 2 questions for you that time is yours to answer the 2 of them.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Titien. Okay, all of my colleagues, presenters, okay, and all of the pemirsa, or the participants. So from Arif Wibowo, so he talked and actually he asked about how university to collect the endowment fund. Actually, if we see one of the problem, especially for developed developing countries, okay, even in we talk about Malaysia or Indonesia and most of the Muslim countries actually, the main problem is about the rules and regulation as well as we call law of the wakaf. Some of the law which is not really strengthened or open in terms of the collection and distribution of the wakaf or endowment itself. So for certain countries, for example, the definition of wakaf very small. Like I said in my presentation previously, for certain people, certain countries, they allow the wakaf is only for the land, or means the building itself, but not the wakaf, the cash wakaf. And also for certain countries, the wakaf also not allow for things that can be disposable or removable. It must be things that firm and stand forever. So that's why they go for land or they go for building. Normally the rock or the stone building rather than made from wood. So first thing first, we have to change the law regulation, okay, for the country or for the society itself. Second one, the understanding itself. So that's why for that one, I would like to urge all of us here to embed the understanding, the concept of endowment, okay, and also here we're supposed to understand the understanding of this concept and the benefit is not only for example for Muslim community only, but it should be broader. So if we only make ourselves or our community better, so we cannot help others. But if we good, then we can separate the wealth or the harmony, things like that. Okay, the third one, we have to put leaders in the university, particularly rectors or vice chancellor, who have this commitment, and they have to work on that. Not only those who stay there as a rector and get the monthly salary. So we have to put, sorry, I have to say sometimes, right? Maybe Marianne or Lily, okay, we have to put someone who have this kind of knowledge, which is they want to work to enhance the endowment or the wakaf, not only just to stay on the very luxury place or luxury office and get the monthly pay and then that's it. So we need, for example, young or the young leaders, the energetic leaders. So that's the key point. And then the fourth one, I would like to say that everybody who love to enhance the education using this concept, wakaf or endowment, they have to lay the foundation from now. As we know, 1,000 steps start with one. So during our time, we have to start this. Take, for example, Sagrada Familia in Spain, all right? In Barcelona, okay? Antoni Gaudi laid the foundation in 1882. It just finished, okay, about years ago in 2010. But he started, okay, the foundation laid. So if everybody laid the foundation now, okay, we will get the outcomes not next week, maybe next month, next year, or next 50 years or next 100 years. All right. So the second question from Wahyu, Muhammad Wahyu, how to overcome, for example, all these kind of scam or crooks, things like that, especially during this 4.0. Okay. First things first, we cannot deny the useness, the importance of the technology, especially during this 4.0 era. So we have to leverage. We collaborate with banking systems, with this one we have the smartphone, okay, So there are lots of like the crowdfunding system. So all sorts of things we have to collaborate and make use of it. Okay, or some sort I may say manipulate it to get I mean better thing for the society and to make sure the wakaf or the endowment can reach the target. So that's it. That's from me, and I hope I answer the question. Thank you, Ibu.
Thank you, Professor Mizan, for your answers, and I hope the participants will be happy for your answers. Okay. And then the next question from Mrs. Taylor from Nurholis, the student from Faculty of Education. How value-based approach could be used to educate people in general about social and cultural sustainability? This is for Mrs. Taylor, and then for the second question from Mrs. Sutsinira to to Dr. Zaenal Mustakim. The question is, should there be 6 pillars of management change? If one of the pillars is missing, can the management work? And then for the third question is from Aris to Mr. Mustakim too. What is the Islamic University advantage facing the global problem in environmental issues? There are 3 questions. First for Mrs. Taylor, and then second and third for Mr. Zaenal Mustakim. Okay, now, okay, Lily, you can answer the questions.
Hi. So if I understood the question correctly, it's about how people in general can be educated about values. Is that what the question was?
Yes, how the value-based approach that you have explained used to educate people to maintain or to build the cultural and social sustainability.
Yeah, okay. Well, I believe that one of the purposes of education for sustainability is to work, as we were saying, to work on people's attitudes and to raise consciousness about certain issues that exist, and to make people aware that actually every decision they make in everyday life has an impact. So Paulo Freire referred to this as conscientization, basically making something conscious. So we use, for example, the storytelling. You could use, for example, documentaries that show up certain sustainability problems that you then discuss with people. You could use audio programs. So, it's not restricted to any particular type of medium. Whichever strategy the teacher, or, like it could be an adult educator, it could be a university lecturer, uses to raise people's consciousness and make them aware that they need to act. Because, I have used these values education strategies from childhood up to working with my university students, but also working with established teachers, veteran teachers, teaching them basically how to use these strategies. So they do work, but you need to adapt the strategies to the age group and to the understanding that particular group of people has. Hope this makes sense.
Okay. Understood very clearly. Okay. And it takes time, of course, not only.
Yeah, it does, yes. And so basically, what's important to understand is this is not a one-off approach. So, just using one story will not change a person's attitudes. But if you use, different approaches or these stories, for example, several times over the course of schooling or the school year, education in general, then they will have an impact.
Okay, that's true. It's very true. Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. And then for the second and third questions for Dr. Zaenal Mustakim.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Titien, and thank you for Ms. Sutinirah from Pasca Sarjana Graduate ya. Okay, this question is, should there be 6 pillar of management change? If one of the pillar is missing, can the management work? Okay. Ideally, the 6 pillars need to be established. Okay. However, when one pillar is missing, the change management can surely be enacted, but with slower progress. Okay. Like for example, if there is no agent of change, in this condition, the leader needs to work harder to establish the value of change within the organization. Oke. Jadi kalau saya terjemahkan bahasa Indonesia, mohon maaf Mbak. Ini ya. Pertanyaannya adalah kalau ada 6 pilar manajemen perubahan, kalau salah satu perubahan tidak ada, apakah manajemennya berjalan dengan baik? Idealnya 6 pilar itu harus ada semua. Tapi kalau ada satu pilar yang miss atau yang missing, yang hilang, yang tidak ada, maka manajemen perubahan itu tetap bisa berjalan, tetapi sangat lambat. Contohnya adalah dalam kondisi itu, mamanya yang tidak ada agent of change-nya, maka pemimpin itu harus bekerja lebih keras supaya nilai-nilai perubahan itu tetap ada dalam organisasi itu. Oke, thank you. Thank you.
And then for the second question, still to Mr. Zaenal Mustakim.
Okay.
Yeah, what is the most appropriate management for the country's Islamic education culture?
Okay. Facing the global problem in environmental issues, perhaps we are not talking about advantage. Instead, we were talking about the solution that we might offer to solve these issues. In this case, Islamic University should offer both conceptual solution and practical solution. What I mean by conceptual solution, we need to create space for Muslim people to learn about environmental changes and how to preserve it. And in practical level, Islamic University should hold activities through social work activities. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zaenal Mustakim, for your answers. And then we go to the session 3. There is a question from Muhammad Gufron to Dr. Zaenal Mustakim again. This is how strategies to grow up main resources so to be university competitive. I mean, here, if I can make such explanation is what are the strategies to improve the human resources so the university can be competitive? That's the question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gufran. I answer with Indonesian language. Strategi untuk mengembangkan sumber daya manusia supaya lembaga pendidikan Islam itu tumbuh berkembang, satunya adalah dengan melakukan beberapa aktivitas pelatihan sesuai dengan job disk yang ada di sumber daya manusia itu. Contohnya, kalau kita bisa kalau kita lihat yang akan kita kembangkan adalah sumber daya manusia di bidang IT, maka ada pelatihan-pelatihan job training atau in-house training itu di bidang IT. Dan kalau dosen namanya lecture juga harus dikembangkan dengan pelatihan-pelatihan terkait dengan kompetensi bidangnya. Jadi organisasi atau perguruan tinggi harus mempunyai perencanaan yang jelas terkait dengan pelatihan-pelatihan yang harus dikembangkan sesuai dengan kebutuhan-kebutuhan. Ada need assessment dulu terhadap kebutuhan pelatihan yang dibutuhkan. Selama ini kan perguruan tinggi itu atau lembaga pendidikan itu memberikan pelatihan tanpa ada need assessment. Harusnya need assessment dulu, baru kemudian dilakukan pelatihan sesuai dengan kebutuhan yang dibutuhkan. Mungkin begitu, Mbak Titi. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Zaenal, for the your answer, and it is I think it's explained in Indonesian, so the participant will understand more clearly. Okay. All right, we are still having questions to Dr. Lily Taylor about from Aisha. The question is, declaration about value, creating global citizenship education for sustainable development. What are the strategies and approaches? This one question is about what are the strategies and approaches that you can explain to us? In Indonesia, we have citizenship education. And what are the strategies and approaches that we can use in educating our students to reach the sustainable development goals that you have mentioned before? You explained that there are 17 goals, and one of them is for citizenship. I think that's what we explained it to you. Clear or not, Dr. Lily, the question?
Yeah, basically, it is because, my understanding is that your citizenship education is very closely linked to character education and therefore has a lot of links to values education. So therefore, we can use all strategies that have been traditionally used in values education. And today I was talking about two of these strategies. One being, looking at socio-scientific issues and using argumentation. The other one is to use the ethical dilemma story approach. Yeah, these are two strategies that you can be using, but there are others as well. These are strategies we are using.
They're all on the website again.
Okay. Yeah, and there is, if you go back to our presentation, you can see on the second last slide, there is a link to our website where people can look up, examples of ethical dilemma stories and how they are being used.
Okay, the website address is http socially responsible science.com.au. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the last question, is there any participant? Okay. From Pinaniswati, this is questions for Mrs. Taylor.
Last question.
Maybe this is out of the theme, Dr. Lily, but I'm very curious about your country. How the teacher there give warnings to the students when a student is wrong or do bad things?
Okay, that's an interesting question because you know, like when you look at values education, there is traditionally, if you look like at traditional values teaching as it was done in the past, you had the teacher's opinion and the teacher would teach a value. Like, for example, today we are talking about honesty. Yeah. So that would be, or for example, we are talking about stealing is wrong. However, because we are talking about a constructivist learning environment where we believe that we need to give students opportunities to find out that other people have maybe other values than themselves. And what this means is that through the stories and through discussions in the class, students can find out what their colleagues are thinking. So as a teacher, the teacher's role is that of a facilitator rather than of an instructor of values. So what we mean by that is the teacher guides and teaches through questions, asking questions to get students to think more deeply. It's also not recommended that the teacher shares their views and their values, at least not at the beginning, because the likelihood that the students will just adopt what the teacher is saying to please him or her is great, whilst they may not actually change how they feel on the inside.
Okay, that's a very wonderful answer. And as moderator, I think if we get the relationship between Dr. Abdulrazak's presentation about natural environment discourse of monotheism and then Dr. Lily's and Dr. Marianne's presentation about education for sustainability, and then it is very related with values. I think it's very, very close. There is a close relationship between the two topics. Is that right, Dr. Abdulrazak? Do you agree? Dr. Abdulrazak is still there.
Okay, I'm still here.
Yeah. Do you agree that there is a closely relationship about your topic and Dr. Lily's topics is about values to natural environment discourse, I think.
Please remind again.
Yeah. Close relationships about natural environment discourse and how to educate our children about sustainability, living sustainability. That's very close relationships. Do you agree, Dr. Abdulrazak?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a question? More questions? Okay. From Mr. Ahyak Tulungagur.
Yes.
Okay. Hello.
The end of question from Tulungagung maybe. From Miss Lily Taylor. Hello.
Hello.
Is my voice?
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
Oh yeah, okay. Assalamualaikum. Lily Taylor, how are you? Hello? Dengar
Yes,
suara
I can
saya
hear
nih, Bu.
you. I can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Lily Taylor, I am very interested about your explain. I know about value and sustainability in the curriculum.
Yes.
You have shared that in Australia, there are cross-curriculum priority of sustainability and
Yes.
general capabilities, including ethical understanding.
Yeah.
And Indonesia, character education and Islamic or spiritual values.
Yeah.
I hope you explain me about the general capabilities, including ethical understanding in Australia. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
The general capabilities, they are like, they are learning outcomes that the whole curriculum is supposed to achieve. So that's why they're called general. So basically, whether it's mathematics or the humanities or English, they all are supposed to achieve those general capabilities. And other examples of general capabilities would include literacy, numeracy, critical thinking, collaborative learning. What else is in there? ICT skills. What else? Cultural knowledge. So all of these together, they are supposed to be addressed by all the different subjects or learning areas. Right? They are structure in the Australian curriculum.
Okay, Mr. Ahyak from Tulungagung.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Miss. And then about cultural sustainability and social sustainability are linked to local knowledge system in
Yes.
Australia.
Yes, everywhere. So this is what Dr. Marianne was trying to talk about, where she was talking about the importance of understanding that if you want to live sustainably in a particular environment, you need to know what local knowledge already exists. And that can be Aboriginal knowledge, or it can be, you know, the people who've lived in an area for a very long time, because they know their environment.
Okay, Mr. Ahyak, that's
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you.
Dr. Taylor's answer. It's very interesting. Yeah, if we compare the education system in Australia and in Indonesia, actually there are some similarities that we can also adopt what they do, and they also can understand what we do in Indonesia. All right, we still have many questions in our chat, but actually there are already 10 participants who have addressed the questions, but we still have two. All the keynote speakers, are you happy to have two more questions? If you don't mind, we are still having a question from Herlina Agustina to Dr. Abdulrazak. How to increase the awareness of people that God creates everything is not vain, so that we can do like God do. And then for the second question, still to Dr. Razak about what does it mean, know yourself by Socrates. Can you explain again related with the natural environment? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much again for the one who gave the question. As I mentioned in the earlier, if we know ourselves, at the same time we surely know the sustainer. The God gave us and the natural environment for us to take this opportunity for us in order to think and learning and understanding the nature, hakikat, and then at the same time we can get the direct to the truth. This is the what we call the approach. So if we want to know the sustainable, we can learn from the from the natural environment. We Herlina, Agustina, we cannot do like God do, but we are as the human being, we can do like the God ordered to us to do, because God is like Kamislu Sayun. God is not familiar like us, but if we want to know the gods, we just follow the order of him in the text, in the Quran, in the text, the holy book. So the one approach that Allah gave us, if we want to know the God, we just learn from the natural environments, and we can learn from we can understand if we will look and we will think things. Afala tatafakkarun, afala yatadabbarun. If we will think, surely we can know the truth. I think that's all, because what I want to share here is my conclusion is the Quran, the text in the Quran is the discourse of the Tawheed. All the texts, all verses are the kind of this discourse for who are the person who want to know the sustainer and know yourself. I think thank you for all.
Okay, thank you very much for Dr. Abdulrazak for the answer, and I hope that the participants is happy with that answer. All right, we come to the end. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Again, thank you very much for the 5 keynote speakers who have presented the wonderful topics for today. And their presentations are very, very interesting. And again, I mentioned one by one for the keynote speaker. Thank you very much for Professor Muhammad Mizan Aslam for University Malaysia, Perlis. And then we thank you to Dr. Abdulrazak Panaemalae from Walailak University, Thailand. And again, thank you very much for Dr. Zaenal Mustakim from IAIN Pekalongan, Indonesia. And the last but not the least, thank you very much for the ladies, Dr. Marianne Laughlin and Dr. Lily Taylor from Curtin University, Australia, and from Edith Cowan University, Australia. And ladies and gentlemen, may I thank you for your active participations in this virtual conference. I hope we enjoy the program, and also we hope that next year the pandemic is over, that we can meet face-to-face in Indonesia. I look forward to your participation in a future conference, of course. Again, thank you very much. And the certificates for the presenters will be handed by the Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much for your participation. Wal muwafiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam Muhammad.
Meeting tapi kan manggil.
Mbak Isti.
Halo.
Zoom-nya mati.
Bahasa Pekalongan.
Well, thank you, Ibu Titien Soewastiningsih, Ph.D. for the time. Respectful ladies and gentlemen, now we would like to extend certificates of appreciation to the keynote speakers.
الآن يعني للشهادة الشهادة الأولى لفضيلة الأستاذ الدكتور محمد ميزان أسلام من University Malaysia Perlis أو من الجامعة ماليزيا Perlis. فليتفضل شكرا الأستاذ الدكتور محمد ميزان أسلام. وللشهادة الثاني لفضيلة الأستاذ الدكتور Abdulrazak Panaemalae من الجامعة Walailak Thailand. شكرا كثير لفضيلة الدكتور Abdulrazak Panaemalae. والثالث للشهادة الثالث يعني الأستاذ الدكتور زينال مستقيم الماجستير من الجامعة الإسلامية الحكومية Pekalongan Indonesia. فليتفضل مشكورا للأستاذ الدكتور زينال مستقيم الماجستير.
And we would like to extend certificates of appreciation to Dr. Lily Taylor from Edith Cowan University, Australia. Thank you, Doctor. And for Dr. Marianne Laughlin from Curtin University, Australia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to inform you that the lunch break is allocated for an hour. And the next agenda is parallel paper presentation. This session is going to start from 13:20 to 15:30. And we have organized 4 venues for the paper presenters. And we are going to see you in the second day of IC 2020. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Parah.
Istirahat dulu, silakan ambil makanan yang di belakang.
Monggo Pak Taklis, Pak Ye, monggo.
Deh, monggo.
Yang wonten Pak Taklis.
Nanti bos saya.
Santai aku pasti.
Tarik sis.
mandangku
Ada presentasi, karena ini kan secara umum. Kalau di hotel tuh di hall, di aula. Tapi nanti di kelas-kelas kalau mau presentasi.
Ada kodenya sendiri nggak sih Mbak Suti?
Satu kelas orang.
Ini nanti ya bisa. Nono suara tak para tatap. Jadi dia ketemu. Kamu nonton bilang.
Makan dulu, makan dulu.
Ayo Pak Yis, yuk sama saya.